Hi, welcome to the Carla Knits podcast. This is episode 20. I can't believe we've already made it to episode 20. Welcome back to returning viewers, and welcome to anybody who might be joining us for the first time today. This is a podcast primarily about knitting and sometimes crochet, but about all of the yarny goodness that I absolutely love. I haven't been here for 2 weeks, so I'm really happy to be back with you. Today is Thursday, July 15th. I live in Nebraska, and it's kind of a cloudy day, which actually cloudy, dreary, rainy days are some of my very favorites. So yesterday and today were kind of cloudy, rainy a little bit, so I have been loving the weather today. But enough about the weather. I'm happy to be here with you today. All right, let's see. Show notes for this episode will be found down below. You can find links to me for social media on Instagram and Ravelry. I am cbcraftygirl on those platforms. And again, that's down below. We do have a Ravelry, a podcast group on Ravelry. So please feel free to join us there. We currently have a make-along going on. It is the Merry, let me get this right, Merry Make-Along 2021. Do I have that right? I think so. Merry Make-Along 2021, which kicked off on July 1st and goes through August 31st. It's for anything you would like to make. So knit, crochet, weave, sew, just to help us get a head start on maybe our Christmas gifting for friends and family, or maybe something special for Christmas for yourself, a fun pair of Christmas socks or a new Christmas hat. So this would be a great time to join along. In that, I will be drawing prizes following that August 31st end. 3 places that I will draw prizes from. One, the finished object thread on Ravelry, and there's a couple things in there already. The chatter thread on Ravelry, which there has been some chatter going on, but I'd love it if you'd continue to chatter. Even if you don't make anything, you still have a chance to win, even if you're chattering just about maybe what you're dreaming about making for Christmas. So that would be another way to participate. And then also I will be drawing from the hashtag on Instagram, Merry Make-Along 2021. So 3 areas where I will draw prizes from. I have started gathering prizes already. And having said that, if you would like to donate prizes to the podcast or specifically to this knit along, that would be great. You can certainly reach out to me on Ravelry and Instagram, and any donation would be greatly appreciated if you feel like doing so. But let me share a couple things that I've gathered so far. This is a donation from my friend Joanne. Hi, Joanne. Joanne used to own a yarn store in our town, and now she has basically a yarn store in her house, a beautiful yarny room, and she has donated 3 skeins of this beautiful yarn. This is by Brown Sheep Yarn Company, which is in Mitchell, Nebraska. So a Nebraska yarn, which is really special to us. This is Lanaloft Sport Weight yarn. It's a hand painted, and it's called, the colorway is called Wine Fire. Isn't that pretty? So sport weight yarn, there are 145 yards per skein, and I will keep all 3 skeins of this together for a project. So thank you so much, Joanne, for donating. I think this would be a beautiful color for the holidays. I think that would just be lovely. So that will be a prize. And I have this wintry bag, so not specifically Christmas, but a wintry bag. This is by Holly Berry Designs on Etsy. So this is a project bag. This would be good for, it's a zipper bag. This would be good for socks, or maybe a 1 to 2 skein project. So a hat would definitely fit in here. A nice zipper bag with that cute mitten print on it and some snowflakes. So that will be really fun to use Christmas time or at winter time. or any time of the year if you're feeling Christmassy. So that will be a prize. Also, I picked up this skein of yarn, also by her company. So this is a skein of DK weight yarn, and it's called Christmas Tree, so very appropriate for our Christmas make-along, merry make-along. DK weight, 80% Superwash Highland wool, 20% nylon, 225 yards. That beautiful green colorway. So that will be a prize. And then the last one I have at this time is a book, A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks. I was gifted this book twice, and so I do not need two books in my collection. So I loved it, and I would absolutely love to pass this along to another avid knitter, crocheter, or yarn enthusiast. So I will include this book as a prize. So if you haven't checked this out, Clara Parks, A Stash of One's Own, and she has a couple other books which are just wonderful to read, all about knitting and yarn. Really, really wonderful books. So those are the prizes I have collected so far. So keep going with your merry making, and I will show some of mine as we get into this episode, which I think, oh, there is one more administrative kind of thing I wanted to talk about. We had, before this make-along, we had the Spring Stripes make-along, and prize winners were announced on episode 18th, which was the end of June, I think June 26th. I still have yet to hear from one person. The other people did contact me, and their yarn was shipped to them. But if you participated in that Spring Stripes make-along, please go check episode 18 to see if you were one of the winners. And I do believe I kept it kind of towards the beginning of the episode. So please see if you won. If I haven't heard from that last person by the end of July, before I podcast again, by the end of July, then I will go ahead and draw a new winner from the Finished Object thread for the Spring Stripes make-along. Okay. All right, so let's get into some finished objects. My first finished object I talked about last time. This is for the Merry Make-Along, so kind of a Christmassy type thing. This is a cowl. This is called Slip Into the Holidays Cowl by Kim Hayes of Roving Fibers. It is a fingering weight cowl. The yarn for the body of it was a mini skein set by Jems Luxe Fibers called Home for the Holidays. I went ahead and added a garter stitch border, and to be honest, I'm not super happy with how this turned out. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed knitting the body of the pattern. Let me hold that up so hopefully you can see those interesting stitches. So it's not color work, but it's slip stitches that mimic color work. And it was really fun. It was really easy to do. It's really fun. The pattern actually called for you not to have this border at all. You would have started with the green and just done one knit round, one purl round, and gone into the body, and then that would have been at the end of the cowl too, which did not seem like much of a start and finish or much of an edge to the cowl for me. Now, if it would stay in place, I would absolutely love it. But let me show you this. And my camera's not facing me, so I'll just have to show you. You can see that this flops down, and I don't like that about fingering weight cowls, is that sometimes they just really flop down, and I probably contributed to that by making this edge. So I guess I would probably tuck it in like, you know, like this maybe, because I don't really want that funky edge showing. So I guess I could wear it like this, but then it's really kind of a skinny little cowl. I'm not sure I care for that, that either. and I didn't know if I was intending to keep this for myself or for a gift, but if I don't really like, I liked the project, I liked making it, but I'm not 100% happy with the finished object. So I don't know if I would want to gift it. So that's kind of to be determined. The other thing I suppose I could do, somehow put, you know, I have some Christmassy pins. You could pin it somehow and kind of futz with it. So I guess that would be okay. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The garter stitch edging, you know, I was concerned because as I was knitting it, it was like really folding over, and it doesn't necessarily do that. But I think it's just a heavy enough edge that in fingering weight, it just kind of draws that whole cowl like inside out, if that makes sense. So, love stitching it, just not really sure about it for a finished object. But the yarn was lovely to work with. I enjoyed working with those bright, vivid colors. Screamed holiday vibes to me, so that part of it was really fun. Yeah. So if you have any thoughts, or maybe how you would style it, or what maybe you would have done to the edge, or if I should have just left the edge alone, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But that is my first finished object. Now my next finished object is a pair of socks, and I kind of hustled on this yesterday because I wanted to get it done for today. So this is my first pair of socks as a contribution to the summer sock camp hosted by the Crazy Sock Lady, and this I will enter into the Magic Loop cabin. So just a shorty pair of socks. I really love how they turned out. Very comfortable. I did try them on. They haven't been blocked, but I just put them on so they'd look a little nicer on the sock blockers. So the main color yarn is Woolen Homestead, originally named Atop the Ferris Wheel, later named County Fair Sunset. And that was a beautiful yarn to work with. I have some left, so I'm really happy. A good portion left, since these aren't too long of a pair of socks. So I'm glad I still have that colorway to work with. And she no longer dyes yarn, just a little aside there. And then the cuff and toe are Knitpicks Stroll in the pucker colorway. So a lovely, fun, bright, neon-y pink color. Yeah, so that is a finished pair of socks. So those are my finished objects. So that's pretty good, two finished objects for this week. And then I also have a couple of half objects. So my first half object, let's see, is a mitten. And if you saw last time, you know I am knitting a pair of mittens for Jeff for Christmas. And I just have the one done, and I think I got it done really close to the last time I podcast. I just kind of finished that off. The yarn I am using is Cascade 220 Superwash. In the color number is 296, and on Ravelry it's called Myrtle Heather. It's kind of a foresty green. I really love the color. I think it's just lovely, and I had mentioned before that I made a weekender in this yarn, and I really like this color a lot. The pattern is the World's Simplest Mitten by Tin Can Knits. I knit a pair of mittens with that pattern earlier this year as my first pair of mittens ever. With this mitten, I did purchase a smaller set of DPNs. So the first time I knit my mittens earlier this year, my DPNs were pretty long, and so it was kind of futzy all around the thumb area. And you know, several people said, oh well, maybe Magic Loop, but I really wanted to try, you know, to see if I could find some smaller DPNs. So I did find smaller DPNs, which are double pointed needles, to work the thumb, to work the thumb with, and I really enjoyed using those. So I really like the finished mitten. I have not started on the second mitten. The part I really don't like about the mitten is I don't like knitting in the mitten is the ribbing. I am not a fan of ribbing, and you know, I make a lot of socks. And now this, to make 4 inches in this, it's 27 rounds of ribbing. So it kind of takes a while. I am a knitter who throws, so it's kind of a slow going, tedious process, but once I get into the regular stockinette knitting in the round, that's really a lot of fun. That's really enjoyable. But I love how it turned out, and I know I need to get started on that second mitten. So I plan on casting that on, I'm telling you, I plan on casting that second mitten on really soon. But it's a great pattern, so if you have some folks that you'd like to make mittens for, it's a really good pattern. Baby sizes on up through adult sizes, 4 different weights of yarn in that pattern, so you could just knit mittens for anybody. So yeah, that's my first mitten. And I have one more half object. This I have not talked about on the podcast, so you have not seen this before. I was asked by Ghazal Muhammad. I have mentioned her name before. I was gifted a sock pattern by her. Now I'm going to try to think what it's called. Oh yeah, the Belladonna Socks. And I showed that, maybe it was the last episode, I showed that finished pair of socks. And she had reached out to me some time ago and asked if I would be willing to test knit, you know, her new sock pattern when it came out. So I actually got a text or a message from her on Ravelry, and she was ready for testers to start. So I got what I'm trying to say. I got the pattern from her last week, Thursday. So it was July 8th. And I did get 1 sock completed for her, and that's all that was needed for the test knit. So I made it a shorty sock. She indicated that you can, and really on any sock, you can make the length of the leg, you know, as tall or as short as you want. But I decided for sure it would be a shorty sock. So the pattern is called Aqua Tofana. She used an aqua color yarn, but I used, this yarn is Noble Character Crafts, and the colorway was her, I think it was Living colorway, but it was one that maybe she wasn't super happy with. It wasn't quite the recipe of the color she wanted, so it was at a reduced rate in her shop. And again, she no longer dyes yarn either, but this is a beautiful coral colorway. I absolutely love it. The star of this sock is absolutely those darling little baubles. I hope you can see those. The pattern comes with a video, and the pattern is out as of today, I believe, as of today. The pattern comes with links to a video for a couple different things, but it shows how to make the baubles. So the video makes it very clear how to make those baubles. So main color is this beautiful coral, and then I wanted to do a contrasting toe just for fun. So this is by Cornbread&Honey, and this was some leftover yarn from an Advent mini. So I had her Advent calendar in 2020. Excuse me, I'm getting really hot. It's summertime, that's okay. So leftover Advent mini from Cornbread&Honey, and it's, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but it's a pale yellow, and it has some corals and pinks in there, so it really matches that sock, that main sock color, really nice. There is a little bit of a twist, or a little different, the heel flap is not exactly your traditional heel flap and gusset, and you would have to get the pattern yourself to see that, but I really like the heel flap on this sock, and I think I will definitely use it again on other socks. So Aqua Tofana is the socks, and they are available on Ravelry today by Ghazal Muhammad. So Ghazal, if you're watching, thank you so much for letting me test knit this for you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And that goes into my works in progress. So the other sock for this. So I have gotten the cuff done, And I do have to tell you this, I got the ribbing done, so you can see I've had some ribbing to do. I got the ribbing done and then I started knitting, and then I had done maybe 6 rounds of knitting past the ribbing, and I'm like, oh, you forgot to do those bobbles. So I had to tink it out, unknit, and do those beautiful bobbles, because you definitely don't want to leave out the star of the sock. So I've got that done. I've got the heel flap and gusset done. I've got my decreases done. So now just working down the foot. So I hope to get this sock done within this week. I sure hope I can do that. Knitting this sock, I think this took from Thursday, not much time on Thursday, but through Monday. And that's a lot of knitting. I have to confess, knitting a sock that much over 4 days was a little bit much for my fingers. You know, usually I alternate between projects, so I would go from maybe a worsted weight, you know, and then do, you know, the smaller needles with the smaller yarn. But I, you know, committed to doing this test knit, so that was a little hard on the fingers. So it's definitely good to take a break with your projects and maybe to alternate between different types of things, just to give those hands and those fingers and maybe your arms a good break. But that's where I am on that sock. The only other whip I have to show you is my sweater, which I have been talking about. I cast this on in early June. This is the Autumn League Pullover by 2 of Wands. And I don't have my hanger today, but if you can see that progress keeper, that is where I was at when we spoke last. And this is the front of the sweater. So I have completed the front of the sweater. If you remember, it was knit in the round to a certain point, and then you divide to make a front panel, a back panel, and then the sleeves are knitted flat as well, and then everything is seamed together in the end. And the reason behind the seaming is that it is to give more structure to the sweater. So we will see, you know, if that's the case. I have not done a sweater, a top-down sweater this way, so I will be interested to see if that seaming actually, you know, does add to the structure of the sweater. But I have completed the front, and so this was a lot of ribbing too. I think this was 2.5 inches of ribbing, but that's okay. So done with the front, and then I am on the back of the sweater, and that's where I am on the back. So that's where I picked up. So what is that, 7 inches maybe down the back? So definitely getting close, getting pretty close to finishing the back of the sweater also. I am just about done with my, yeah, really just about done. I mean, I am just have this little bit left of my 5th skein of yarn. No, I take that back. My 4th skein of yarn. That is the end of my 4th skein of yarn. And I have 3 skeins to go. So I have plenty to finish the bottom of this sweater and then to do 2 sleeves. So at first I was a little nervous about yarn management, but I really do believe and I do have to pick up the neckline too, but I do believe I'm gonna be just fine with yarn. I am making that sweater as part of a knit along hosted by Mallory and Frida of the Strings Attached podcast. Hi ladies. So thoroughly enjoying that sweater. The yarn I've talked about before is Lion Brand Cotton Jeans yarn. And this is the either deep indigo or classic indigo. And I bought this yarn in 2018, and I'm not sure it's exactly the same color that they're calling like deep indigo or classic indigo now. But this is really quite a dark blue. I do notice, and I don't know if I bet maybe you can pick it up. There is some, like, I don't know if I would say striping or flashing of darker colors. And I did not think, honestly, about alternating skeins. So alternating skeins is important when you use hand-dyed yarn. you know, from independent dyers, because even if you put, let's say, 3 or 4 skeins in the same dye bath, different factors affect the yarn differently, and you may not come out with exactly the same shade. And so by alternating skeins in the sweater, like every row, every 2 rows, that disperses that color so that you don't get those flashes or pooling in the sweater. But you know, I figured with a commercial yarn like Lion Brand, all the same dye lot, that it should be fine. And I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be wearable as a sweater, but now I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should have alternated skeins on this one, but I didn't, and we're too far along now, so we just got to keep going with it. But I'm loving knitting on this. I really just want to keep knitting on this, but I know I have some Christmas gift knitting that I need to do. This currently is the only sock I have on my needles. Excuse me. So I am ready to cast on a new pair of socks. I've talked about that I only like to have 2 socks on the needles. So this pair is done. This pair is close to being done. That's it on my needles for socks. So I am gonna pick a sock yarn to work on for a Christmas gift. So that will be being cast on really, really soon. Let's see. A little bit of chatter, and I'll talk a little bit about some dream knitting. I have on our Carla Knits podcast group on Ravelry, I have an Ask Me Anything thread, which I mentioned for the first time last episode. So I will mention it again here. If you have any questions that you would ever like to ask me, personal questions, you know, within reason, knitting questions, I mean, really anything you're curious about, my likes, my dislikes, hobbies, whatever, hobbies besides yarn, please feel free to ask me anything. I did have one question there, which I really appreciated. I did have one question on Instagram also, specifically about a pattern. And so I addressed that to that person there. So if you ever have like a knitting question that you just want me to answer personally for you, if I have knit it and can help you, I would be more than happy to try to offer help. So, you know, please feel free to reach out to me, you know, either on Instagram or Ravelry. You can always send just a personal message too, and I would be happy to help if I can. But the one question that was asked in that Ask Me Anything thread was by Amy Has Time. That's the username, Amy Has Time on Ravelry. And she asked, do you play any other instruments other than the piano/organ, and do you sing as well? I do not play any other instruments besides the piano or organ. I would like to. There's probably just not enough time in the day, and definitely the yarn has my heart right now. I would love to have learned flute. My daughter Jenna plays flute. She is a beautiful flutist. I love string instruments. I love listening to string instruments. I would have loved to have learned violin or viola. And it's certainly something I can do. It's just, you know, it takes time to dedicate to something. So, but piano and organ, those truly are my main focus right now. If you're new, I am a piano teacher at a local college, and the semester is starting next month, August, so our summer is marching along. So I'm a part-time piano teacher at the college, and then I also am a church organist. Currently not a full-time church organist, but I do sub regularly 1 to 2 times a month for a couple churches in our surrounding areas. So music is a huge part of my life. She asked if I sing as well. I do sing. I love singing. I have loved music classes since elementary school. And when we got to have choir starting in 5th grade, I was involved in choir and several different choirs from 5th grade through 12th grade. I loved singing in the church choir. I have sung some solos, but that's probably not really what I love to do best. I like to sing as part of a group. But I will just share a little a little aside here. I was very, very happy in high school or junior high. No, I think it was high school that I did get a solo in our spring concert, and I got to sing the song Leader of the Pack. I love 50s and 60s music, and I got to sing that solo, and it was so much fun. And having sung that at that concert, that song always, I love it whenever I hear it. And there was a festival at my dad's church, and there was karaoke. And so I dragged one of my younger brothers along, Thomas, to sing Leader of the Pack with me. So we have a video, it's on VHS, which we don't have a video player anymore, where I was singing Leader of the Pack, and my brother Thomas did the vroom vroom part, and he was, much littler then. So that's kind of a cute little story that we have in our family, but I absolutely do love singing. So thank you, Amy, for that question on Ravelry, and if you have any questions, please feel free to post them there. So yeah, Ravelry. Post your questions. There's a welcome thread, introduce yourself and your fiber story, how you learned to crochet or knit, any of those things. That would be wonderful. Let's see, a little bit of talking about dream knitting. I mentioned last time that I would like to knit the Ranunculus, and I know a lot of you are familiar with this pattern, and this isn't the best picture, but I will show you. Let's see, I do have another picture here. Yeah, so there's that Ranunculus. And this is a pattern by Midori Hirose. It is designed for a lace or fingering weight sweater, but also you could use really any weight of yarn to make this sweater, and there are instructions for that. So I had talked last time that I had gotten this yarn on my yarn shopping trip with my yarn group. Hi guys. This is Knit 1, Crochet 2 in Winter Blossom is the yarn, and it's kind of a pretty sage green color, and it is 50% wool, 30% mohair, 20% silk. And I had thought about just doing the sweater with just this held by itself, but I wasn't sure that I was gonna like it that drapey or maybe that see-through with that thin of yarn. So I got on Etsy, like I do way too often. Etsy is my favorite place to shop. And I believe I am going to pair this mohair. This is a mohair silk. The colorway is Succulent. And so I'm going to pair that with it. So this will be closer to a DK weight sweater. I think that'll go well together. We will see. I hope to cast this on really soon. I almost cast it on yesterday. Actually, tell me what you think. Do you think I should just try by itself, or should I try this together? I'd be curious to know if you have an opinion on that. I almost cast this on yesterday, so we're gonna get back into some chatter because yesterday was my birthday. And sometimes people have birthday cast-ons, and I really kind of thought maybe I should cast on this Ranunculus sweater, but I thought, no, I'm gonna be good and I'm gonna get this sock done so that I'll have that finished object for the podcast. And I'm very happy. And of course, my pink loving heart, absolutely loved working on that sock yesterday. But yesterday was my birthday, and it was a big one. It was my 50th birthday. Yeah, so I was kind of clinging to my 40s by my fingernails. A little nervous about starting my 50s, but I am very okay. I had a wonderful day yesterday. Did some shopping with Jeff in Lincoln, and he surprised me. He purchased a cake from a restaurant that we love going to, and I always get the cake. It's called Green Gâteau in Lincoln. And the cake is their signature cake called Green Gâteau. and he purchased a whole cake of this for me. So the cake is huge, and I did post it on Instagram yesterday. So if you want to see the cake, it is over on Instagram. It's absolutely beautiful. And after I finish podcasting here, I think I'm gonna have myself a piece as I edit this video. But a beautiful cake. I really enjoyed that. You know, we celebrated with our son Aaron and his girlfriend, and Jenna when she came home from working at the pool. So it was so nice. I'll share this because it's knitting themed. Aaron and Kelsey gifted me this, so I know probably a lot of you are familiar. Star Wars Knitting the Galaxy. Star Wars was a big part of, and still is, for both of my boys, and Jenna too. We really all are Star Wars fans. I remember going to see the original Star Wars back in, what, 77? Is that right? With my dad. So I always saw those Star Wars movies, you know, that came out then with my dad. So some fun memories. Our boys loved Star Wars Legos. They had the Star Wars action figures. You know, my husband and his brother had some of their leftover Star Wars things. And so my boys have always loved Star Wars. So Aaron gave me this. He's like, you gotta knit something Star Wars because it's a big Star Wars year. Something with Boba Fett comes out later this year. So Aaron wants me to knit this. So the Boba Fett mini sweater ornament is really cute. So he would like that. So I'm gonna make that for him for his Christmas tree. He's also quite interested in the Darth Vader sweater, but wow. I'm just not sure about that. I figure I have to make Jeff a sweater first. I need to knit Jeff a regular sweater first before I knit one for Aaron. But that would be really fun. And then this sweater actually is one of my favorites. I think this is so cute. This is by Megan Regan, who is Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits on YouTube. This beautiful Star Wars colorwork sweater, which I think is just, it's just so much fun. So I'm really excited to look at this book a little further, but I guess I'm gonna add that ornament to my Christmas knitting. So I'm gonna dig in my stash to see if I have some of those colors for that little Boba Fett sweater ornament. So I will be knitting that. So not only was it my birthday, last week Thursday was also Jeff and my 26th wedding anniversary. So that's why I didn't podcast, because we had some bigger occasions going on in our family, and we had a lovely day. We were at the lake a big portion of the afternoon. It was really good sailing weather. We had fun swimming in the lake, and then we went out to one of our favorite Mexican restaurants for dinner. So it was very lovely. So it's been a good couple of weeks. I've gotten, I feel like, a lot of knitting done. So I've enjoyed sharing that with you today. If you would give me a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It helps get the podcast out to other people who might be interested in this podcast. I'd love to hear from you down below. So any comments you'd care to leave are just great. And I do read them all, and I do my best to respond to them all too. I'm curious if any of you are Star Wars knitters, and if you are knitting anything for Star Wars, especially with Star Wars things coming out. And I know Mandalorian is really big. So have you knit, or are you going to knit anything Star Wars related? The one other question I have for you guys is about, I guess, my podcasting schedule. You know, I have tried to do every week for a good portion of the podcast time since I started in February. And then I've taken a couple of 2-week breaks in there. Do you like a weekly podcast, or do you like every 2 weeks? I'm kind of leaning towards going to every 2 weeks. It seems like it might be a little bit more manageable. But I would be curious to know what you think. Yeah, I would be really curious to know what you think. Having said that, though, I will not be podcasting next week because Jeff, Jenna, and I are taking a trip to Michigan to go see my mom and dad. Hi, Mom. And my sister and her family. Hi, Laura. And maybe my brother Thomas too. So hi guys. Excuse me. Looking forward to seeing you all really soon. So I will be back hopefully the end of July with a new podcast and hopefully a lot of fun knitting to share with you. I'm really excited to plan my trip knitting because we do drive and it's about a 12.5 to 13 hour car ride. So and with Jenna as a driver too, my driving time will be lessened, so I will have much more knitting time. So it's always fun to plan knitting on a trip. So I look forward to doing that for next week. So with that, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you have a good couple of weeks with your knitting, crocheting, sewing, whatever you love doing. And I look forward to being back with you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.